Hello, welcome back. This is Miko, and we back with our sales training. This video, I had a thought about this literally a few years ago, never got around to it, but it's actually pretty important, so I wanted to get back and dive into it. So, the subject of this, it's a little psychological, philosophical. It's not like straight, and it's not specifically car sales oriented, but definitely can help you. And the idea is this: think about your objective when you approach every action, every interaction, specifically in your job as a car salesman. And this is a simple NLP hack that can give you a lot of dividends, so that it can pay off big. And NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. I made a separate video for that. I believe maybe I mentioned this as well, but we're just going to dive into it. So, if you're on this channel, you're already paying attention, you're trying to get better, you're already on your way up. So I'm assuming you're a hardworking, driven salesperson. But without proper objectives, you might be working too hard. And what I want you to do, I want you to work smarter, not harder. I want you to work less and have easier job, and your customers will be happy as well. And what do I mean by objective? Well, I looked it up just to find out like what the definition is. There are a lot of synonyms such as intention or intent or goal, but we're not talking. I didn't want to use the word goal because goals in our context is like goal is sell 30 cars. That's a great goal. I made a lot of money, um, but this is specific for specific human interaction. And when our objectives, like we definitely have objectives, right? And objectives are pretty clear, especially if you're a goal driven person. When a customer comes in, what is your objective? Well, the objective is to sell a car. A lot of money, not a lot of money, it doesn't really matter. We just want to put that mark on the board, put the V, and move on, right? That's the objective. But we know in a lot of situations, just going straight for the objective will make it harder, if not impossible, to achieve it. And let's think about other human interactions, right? Just not think about sales for a second. If you go on a date, first date, you met somebody on Tinder or whatever, and you go on a first date, well, what is your objective? We're pretty clear. It could be different objectives, but you do have an objective. It could be get in the bed and score, or maybe it could be find a future husband, right? But if your objective is to get laid and the other person has different objectives, there's going to be a conflict. And on the other end, like if you're trying to find a future mate, but somebody the partner has objective just to go out and have dinner, we're not on the same level. So there will be a miscommunication. And also, we as humans, our intuition, a lot of times we read these signals and subconsciously we respond to them, even if we cannot really like maybe put it in words, but we feel that, right? You can definitely feel when somebody is trying to take an advantage of you. And what happens when when you feel that? You resist back. So other relationships, let's say you have a partner and you get into an argument. Well, when you get into this, maybe a little bit confrontational discussion, what is your goal? What is your objective? Is it to win the argument? Is it to convince the other person? Or could it be something else that will make your life much easier and will get both of you to some kind of solution? Maybe your objective could be understand the other person or just reach some kind of agreement. So, as I said, as I already mentioned, in general, if you go straight for your objective and that objective or goal does not align with the other person, you're going to create a conflict. You're going to create a resistance. And this is the biggest problem with this, going back to our sales scenario, how it works in sales. The most basic interaction: new customer walks into the showroom floor, you want to sell them a car. Well, what do they want? I mean, yeah, they need a car, but they don't necessarily want to buy a car from you. Also have a lot of conflicts in their head. They're not sure. Maybe their objective is to rule you out as a dealership because they really want to buy somewhere else, right? We really don't know what their objective is. But when you like that driven and pushing them hard, when you push this, when I do these trainings live, sometimes I'll do an exercise. I stole it from another, from a motivational speaker, but I would ask somebody to put a fist up, and I just put my fist against it, and they instantly start pushing. Why do they push? I didn't tell them to push, but this is the resistance, right? We automatically start resist when we feel that somebody is trying to pressure us. So, how do we break down? I'm going to get into details in these specific sales scenarios, sales interactions, because it's important for interaction with other people, right? So, let's go back to that showroom visit. Customer walks in. What is your intention? Well, is it to sell a car? Or maybe your manager set up a process where your goal is to get a credit application that's signed, or maybe related to that, is your intention and objective is to qualify them, to figure out whether they can afford the car or you have something for them. Is it to write them up? Sometimes that could be an objective. Just put somebody on the paper and then just let percentages work out. Well, how does it make your customer feel? Especially like, we some trainers actually talk about this. Well, you have to ask qualifying questions. How does it make you feel as a customer, right? This is, yeah, we live in a capitalism, but this is like reducing a person to just a pile of money that you're trying to grab something from it. Well, what could be a different intention, different objective that you will have? Well, think about this. Have this as a thought scenario. Think about this, that you don't have any appointments and you're waiting for that first up of the day. Maybe it's Saturday morning. What if your goal that you set up for yourself will be to get 5-star Google or Yelp review for that customer? Think about how your interaction will go. Would you be nicer to them? Would they like you more? Would you find out more about them if you just go for that objective? Let's make it something simple. What if your objective was just to try find something in common? Not about cars, not about whether they can afford it. Just what will happen to your interaction if you just try to figure out somewhere where you can communicate on a human level. I made a separate video about rapport. If you're in sales, you should understand how important is rapport. Rapport works whether, even if I know that you're trying to sell me something by building rapport, rapport is still gonna work, right? So I've experienced that when I had this, like, it wasn't really a relation. It was a result of training and reading and exploring different strategies. But what I found was when I go into these interactions with the goal of just making a friend, right? Somebody walks in, I don't know them. I'm not trying to sell them a car, but as a friend, I'm trying to figure out what do they really want to achieve. I'm trying to figure out, but genuinely, not just like to manipulate them, to put them, in some kind of like psychological trick to agree to something that they don't want. But I genuinely tried to learn more about that customer, listen to them with intent, uh, react, empathize with them, right? This is something that will change this interaction a lot. Now, what do you have to lose? You still gonna sell a car, but if you do this right, your chances of selling a car will go up. Your chances of making more money will go up. It'll increase your gross. It'll improve your reputation, CSI scores, all of those things. So this was just going into a showroom. Let's think about another sales interaction that's very common and very important is a phone call, right? So you pick up the phone call and somebody calls. Why did they call? They call with a question. So what's your intention? Well, if you were trained well, and any company will train you, you're supposed to get an appointment. And I agree, appointments are extremely important. Appointments are how we ensure that they actually show up. They show up on the proper schedule so we can be prepared. Yeah, appointments are awesome. Appointments close at like 50% if they actually show up, or, it doesn't matter the exact number. But think about the other way. If you were a customer, and if you wanted to go in and visit the dealership, what would you have done? Well, A lot of people would just show up, right? They find out, okay, the dealership is open. Looks like on the website they have a few of these cars. I'm just going to show up. If you're a little bit more organized, yeah, you would call, but you will state that you will make an appointment. You want to make an appointment. You don't start with other questions because that's your goal. So if the customer is calling and they have questions for you, assume they're not ready to make an appointment. If you start pushing for an appointment and they're not ready for it, what do we have? We have resistance. The more you push, the more they're going to resist, the more they're going to get frustrated with you, the more they're going to try to play games with you and give you fake name and give you fake information, because that's another part of it. Like if your goal with an appointment just to get their phone number so BDC can hound them with constant phone calls, that's also like, who does it help? It's not going to help you and not going to help them. So what could be a better intention? Again, what if it's a 5-star review? Can you get a 5-star Google review just from a phone call? Yeah, it's possible. People do that. I've seen those reviews. Can you get that? How would it change the interaction if this was your goal, and how much it'll be your chances of actually getting this customer to come in and asking for you will improve? What if your goal or intention would be to overwhelm them with valuable information, not just answer the phone call, but go above and beyond? If this is your goal, how would it make the customer feel? And those customers, they don't just call you. We know that. They call a few dealerships and they judge you. They judge the dealership by your response, your reaction, what you say, and how you say that. Could be the same intent, right? Find something in common. Make a friend just from a phone call. Maybe just a goal from phone call to move to an email conversation when you can just actually build something up, right? Doesn't really matter what it is, but again, what's important is that, yeah, we have a goal. We have this like mind, uh, one track mind that we want to get sales, but of sometimes, especially in human interactions, maybe a different intent will work better for us. So next interaction, and this is something like I work a lot by when I train internet departments, and which is most of my job these days, is email. Somebody puts an inquiry on the website or whatever, somebody's website, third party, and your CRM pings tells you there's a lead, and you try to call them, or maybe there's no phone number, you have to write an email or a text. What is the goal of your email? What are you trying to achieve? What do you expect to achieve best outcome scenario? Are you trying to sell a car? Well, how realistic will be to sell a car from one email? Not really. Are you trying to get them on the phone or trying to get them to come in? We go back to the phone scenario. If they wanted to come in, they would have scheduled an appointment or came in. If they wanted to talk on the phone, they either would call, going back to the phone scenario, or they would have answered or provided a phone number for you to call and have a conversation. They're on email, they're not in person, you cannot get them on the phone. Assume they're not ready for it, don't push for it. Yeah, we're going to make easy for them to call or visit, and I have a separate video on how to build the first quality response, FQR. But the goal is extremely important in the tone of your email, right? If your email is like even if you answer the question and then you straight go into when can you come in, you sound like, typical salesman, right? Not different from anybody else. But what if your intent was different? Intent such as get some kind of response, get an interaction going, get them to engage with you, some kind of engagement. Last one, just out of like the main interactions that we have in sales that drive sales, is follow-up calls and emails. So again, what is what is your goal when you make that phone call to follow up 3 days after they submitted a lead and never responded? What's the voicemail that you give, or what's the email that you send? Well, most of the time, what we're trying to do is either mark in a CRM that are you still in the market, right? That's basically all we ask. Are you still in the market? Or checking in, how can I help? Well, is that helpful to the customer? It's answering your question, uh, provide any value to the customer, or is just the value to you? Again, what could be a different intent? Different intent could be some kind of offer, value, just any kind of a value that you can offer to the customer, offers. Price drops, inventory updates, that new inventory you got, some kind of content, some kind of useful content, such as like, how to pick between two similar cars, how to, how do leases work. I have a YouTube channel separate from this one where I still have all my content live. You can see what it is. But again, if your goal is to be useful and provide some kind of value to the customer, that will come over. And of course, there's no guarantee. You're not going to get sale every time from every email, but all we want is increase our chances. These follow-up emails, we know they don't work, right? On average, they don't work. Average response, let's say if the average response is 2%. What if you double it to 4%? That's literally doubling your business from these things, but it'll require just a small adjustment and not even nothing big. It's just adjustment in your mentality when you think before you hit send. Look at your email, think about what you're going to say in your voicemail, and that will change how customers respond to you because people feel it. I mean, we're animals, right? We feel on, we maybe not as intuitive and fine-tuned as other, like wild animals, but we're still animals. We still feel these things and we still respond to them. Sometimes we don't even understand why we like, you ever felt, well, like you meet a new person and you're like, okay, something feels off. I don't like them. And then you justify it. Oh, it's because of whatever. But it could be something else that you intuitively felt and you just instantly decided this is a person, this is something dangerous. Or it could be the opposite. So yeah, this is that animal part, but we as humans, right? We know psychology. We're smarter than that. We can adjust it. Adjust your own mentality and get more sales. Thanks for watching.